Stop it. Now, in case you have been living under a rock, the Boston Celtics are the 2024 NBA champions. It is their 18th championship in team history, which makes them the team with the most championships in the NBA. Obviously a very special accomplishment, one filled with a lot of celebrating. They had their parade recently, and Boston fans are having the time of their lives right now. But despite this celebratory occasion, it has been met with a lot of slander and critique on how genuine this run truly was. Now yes, a large majority of this criticism is coming from Celtics haters who will find any possible way to push their narrative of critique. And then you have some people who do truly believe that this was the easiest run in NBA history, this was the weakest team to win the finals, a Mickey Mouse run some would say. And man, could people not be any more wrong. Now trust me, I'm not going to lie to you guys and say that the injuries on the other side of the ball didn't positively affect the Celtics' chances of winning each series. They definitely helped, but the fact that many people are denying this championship because of those injuries is simply wild, considering the Celtics would have had an easy time steamrolling those teams no matter what. Yes, Jimmy Butler being injured for the entire first round did lessen the competitiveness of that series, and honestly it's a shame he didn't play because I would have loved to see Jimmy Butler versus the Celtics 4.0. But if you think that Jimmy Butler playing in the series would have made the Heat win the series in the long run, you are out of your mind. Would they have stolen one more or maybe even two more games? Perhaps. Win the series? Absolutely not. Giving Jimmy Butler his credit, he is not carrying that team against this super team of powerhouse players that the Celtics have. When we look at the series, the Heat stole one game, but the Celtics absolutely obliterated them in each of the 4 other matchups. Jimmy Butler may have swayed one of those games, but to say that he would have completely been the difference maker in changing this blowout series, it's complete delusion. Now, some people also bring up the Cleveland series. Donovan Mitchell participated in games 1 through 3 but missed games 4 and 5. Also to note is the Jarrett Allen injury throughout the series. But it's funny to mention that all the people who bring up these injuries forget to completely mention that Kristaps Porzingis, the Celtics' 3rd best player, missed the entirety of this round, along with a couple games in the Miami series, which I didn't even mention. And then he also missed the entire series against the Pacers, which we'll get to later. So there were injuries on both sides. But back to the key injury of the series, Donovan Mitchell. In the 3 games he played, the Cavaliers had a record of 1-2, so they still were on pace to lose that series. Similar to the Jimmy Butler scenario, I could definitely see the argument that the Cavs force a Game 6 and possibly a Game 7. But to say that a healthy Mitch would completely turn the series around for Cleveland and help them move on to the Eastern Conference Finals, that's blasphemy. And then the final injured series of this postseason run was the Eastern Conference Finals against the Pacers, which the Celtics swept, by the way. Obviously, once again, you want to look at the main injury of the series. It was Tyrese Halliburton. Keep in mind, Porzingis was injured all 4 games. Halliburton was injured for games 3 and 4. The Pacers went 0-2 in games that Tyrese started, and 0-2 in games that he didn't start, so not necessarily a major difference by any means. With that being said, a star player being healthy an entire series is very different, and the Pacers could have rallied. I mean, heck, they even were down 0-2 to the Knicks in the previous series. But that is very different. The Celtics are a much better team all around defensively and offensively than the New York Knicks. They finish with a much better record. On paper, they have a much better roster. And not to mention, the Celtics dominantly handled this series in 4 games. A sweep in the conference finals is a very impressive task that one player won't make up for completely. Like every injury so far, you could make the case that the Pacers extend the series to 5 or 6, but once again, not winning it. So that pretty much wraps up all the injuries of the playoff run. Series that the Celtics would have won inevitably, and they won all of them in comfortable fashion. And then also bringing up the fact that the games in which the star player was healthy, the Celtics still were 4-1, which is very similar to their normal record throughout this entire postseason. And then you have the NBA Finals against the Dallas Mavericks. Once again, people like to conveniently forget that the Celtics actually were the more injured team in the NBA Finals. Like I said, nobody ever says that because it doesn't fit their narrative of the Celtics having a weak run, but think about it. The Mavericks had a healthy starting 5 for every single game, while Porzingis missed 2.5 games. Not a major injury by any means, but missing your 3rd best player for the finals, the biggest stage of the entire season, is a huge blow. Yet the Celtics still won this series in 5 games, winning the NBA Finals in a gentleman's sweep. People say they threw Game 4 and purposefully lost. Let's just focus on the stats here and what actually happened. We'll credit that as a normal loss for the Celtics. But still, they carried out this series with such dominance against a team that was completely healthy and was a finals team. So the biggest series out of all of them in the postseason, the Celtics won with no asterisks whatsoever. And people are very quick to switch up too. Before the series started, majority of people were putting their money on the Mavericks. Analysts, the Mavericks did have a slight majority in who was going to win this finals, and people were regarding Luka and Kyrie as the best offensive backcourt of all time before this series was said and done. The Celtics dismantled them in 5 games. Yes, these Celtics are no ordinary team. They're not like your average NBA championship winner, such as maybe, say, the Nuggets or the Bucks of prior seasons. The Celtics actually go down as one of the best teams historically, a top 10 team in NBA history. Let me just pull out the record book so you can see that this team truly was a super team for the ages, and injuries would not have made any difference on the success of this run. They finished with a very impressive 64-18 record, the 25th best in NBA history. What's even more impressive is that the Celtics finished total with an 80-21 record, including the postseason, which is the 13th best in NBA history. The Celtics absolutely cruised through the playoffs with their 16-3 record, which puts them in the top 10 percentage-wise for the best postseason record. And looking at the more fine stats, 1.22 points per possession, the best in NBA history. 11.34 net rating, the 5th best in NBA history. 1,351 three-pointers made, the 2nd most in NBA history. Not to mention the Celtics have the most 25-point wins in NBA history and the most 30-point wins in NBA history in a single season. And just the fact that they clinched the playoffs 17 days before any other team in the league did shows how ahead they were. This is not your average team. No series in the postseason even made it to Game 6 with how dominant they were and how quickly they made adjustments if they let a game slip away. So yeah, and under no circumstance is there any room to call this playoff run a Mickey Mouse ring or the Celtics to be one of the weakest teams to ever win the NBA Finals. I think if you're going to make a case for a Mickey Mouse team, it'd have to be a team that legitimately outright won a series because of injury and did not deserve to move on. With the Celtics, you can confidently say that they're going to win those series anyways, and not to mention their hardest series of the entire postseason was against a fully healthy Mavericks team. A team that I could see someone making the case for a Mickey Mouse ring is actually the 2021 Milwaukee Bucks. Now, this has been a hot take that I've been trying to push for a while because it's a hot take but a reasonable one. And I actually made a full video on it, so make sure to check that out. I made it a couple years ago, but it's definitely a good watch. But yeah, the Milwaukee Bucks, when you think of them, you think of an impressive first round sweep against the Miami Heat. But really, the second round against the Brooklyn Nets is where all the controversy lays. I mean, people need to talk about the Bucks ring being a Mickey Mouse ring more. I know Giannis had a historic performance in the finals, so people tend to gloss over it. But really, they should not have made it past the second round. They were the 3 seed going against the number 2 seed Nets. And everybody knows this was that very famous series in 2021 where Kevin Durant's foot was on the line, making it a 2, not a 3, sending it into overtime, and the Bucks would later win. So really, as close as a series could possibly get. A series that came to absolute inches, and you're telling me that Kyrie missing 3.5 games and James Harden missing 4 in that series did not have a single impact? A healthy Nets is beating this Bucks team in 6, maybe even 5. Remember, the Nets had the series lead of 2-1 when Kyrie went out with that high ankle sprain, and that completely changed the course of the series as it pretty much was just Durant left. So the fact that 2 all-NBA caliber players both missed this extended time in one series, and the fact that it had to come down to inches in a Game 7 overtime for them to lose really shows that this series should have been Brooklyn's and that Milwaukee was not the better team of the series. Milwaukee would then face an injured Atlanta Hawks as Trae Young did miss some time during that series, but once again, Giannis was injured for part of that series too, so it kind of cancels out. And yes, they did have a pretty convincing finals win against the Phoenix Suns, which I definitely thought they were the better team of that series. But once again, the Suns shouldn't have even been in the finals. It should have been the Clippers that year, as the Clippers literally took the Suns to 6 games without their star player Kawhi. I think a healthy Kawhi Clippers is beating that Bucks team, but once again, that's completely down the line. That's a huge butterfly effect. But still, you can tell that they did not deserve to win that Brooklyn series. So if anything, all things considered, if fans were to hate and to single out a single team's run and say that was the weakest championship run, Mickey Mouse, it would be the 21 Bucks logically. But many more people hate the Celtics as a franchise than the Bucks, so the Bucks get a lot more leeway while the Celtics receive all possible hate. But with that being said, every ring is a ring at the end of the day. There's no such thing as really a Mickey Mouse ring because the team just made the best of their circumstances to win and to outplay every single team in that postseason. Availability is the best ability, so even though a team may stay healthier than other teams, that honestly is credit to the team, the training staff. Either way, the team that wins at the end of the year surpassed their obstacles better than the other team. The Celtics ring is not a Mickey Mouse. Sure, it might not have been the most difficult path, but they clearly were the best team in the league this season. They would have beaten all of those Eastern teams even if they were fully healthy, and yes, their biggest accomplishment, their biggest series, was against a fully healthy Mavericks team. So when it mattered, they got the job done with no asterisks involved.